Full Blast Podcast, let's take a ride into the mind of Smoothie. Video games and comic books, we'll talk about horror movies. Let's go retro, checking the scene. Talk about things in magazines. We'll talk about the things that we've seen on screen and the 90s on the 19.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Mind of Smoothie podcast. It is your boy Smoothie, but of course, and I'm inviting you to come for the entertainment and to stay for the journey. That journey, of course, deep into the mind of Smoothie. I also want to take this time to say Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. 2022, that shit show of the year, is now in the past. It's a vivid memory, hopefully. Maybe it wasn't all that bad for you, but it had its moments. But I'm ready to get started, to refresh and to recharge here. And what a better way to start the new year off than looking at a questionably cult status horror movie from the 80s, much like I did last year. Now, last year, if you remember, I kicked off the year with New Year's Evil, which was a good choice. I enjoyed it, and I haven't gone back and watched it yet, but I overall thoroughly enjoyed what that movie had to offer. And when I was trying to figure out movies to watch for last year, I did stumble across the movie that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. And I started to watch it and fell asleep, so that doesn't say much. And when I say it doesn't say much, not necessarily about the quality of the movie, but I tend to fall asleep through about 95% of movies I watch. I decided to give this movie another shot this year, and there's a host of other New Year's Eve themed movies that we could watch, and there's going to be plenty more New Year's ahead. And hopefully I'm around to partake in them and share some goodness with you. But this year, I chose to go with the movie Bloody New Year from 1987. Now, Bloody New Year is really not as bloody as you would think it would be, or think it should be. But it was alright. It's more or less a haunted house type mystery, horror, thriller thing, whatever you want to call it. Let me, for context, give you the description that was on the back of the VHS release from 1987. This was from the original release. Should old acquaintance be forgot or just brutally murdered? No need to make reservations for this New Year's Eve party. There's plenty of room. The hotel is all done up for New Year's. The tree's been trimmed since before Christmas. The party clothes are neatly laid out for the guest. There are only two catches. It's the middle of July, and these guests have been dead for 30 years. And when 5 unsuspecting people stumble into this bizarre inn, they find themselves steeped in a tortured world of past horrors and present dangers. An agonized, inexplicable evil is determined to avenge a murder 3 decades old, and this poltergeist doesn't care who pays. There's only one house rule at this hotel. Guests had better be gone before checkout time. So, judging by that description, I mean, you should be sitting on the seat of your chair in anticipation of how this is all going to play out. And I do want to call out the fact that it was actually 6 unsuspecting guests that ended up at this inn. And we'll talk about that now and how that happened. The movie starts, just very quickly, brief overview. The movie starts, it's black and white. And we are gazing upon what looks to be people coming into this ballroom to celebrate the new year. So it's New Year's Eve 1959, Everybody's dancing, happy, having a good time. And then near the end of the opening scene, one of the guests goes to check herself in the mirror, and a hand pulls her through the mirror. Cut to the present day, 1987, and visions of an amusement park, if you will, Barry Island's Fun Fair. And yeah, it's strange to say the least. So we see some footage of just the different rides and amusements that were going on. Then we cut to a Tilt-A-Whirl. That's the ride. I couldn't think of the ride for a second. And where we see a girl being harassed by two, I'm assuming, ride operators that were spinning her cart, and she was uncomfortable, you can tell. And then we meet a few other patrons of the park who come to aid this girl. They go and confront the two gentlemen on the Tilt-A-Whirl, while one goes and pulls the fuse from the fuse box, causing the ride to stop, and they free the girl. And a chase ensues throughout the park. They're being chased by those two guys and the ride operator, all throughout in a comical fashion. We see them run into a dark ride, and they go through the doors where cast members would come to make jump scares. And one of their other friends breaks through the side of the dark ride with a car pulling a boat. They all hop in and head towards the beach, to the dock, wherever, as they're still being chased by these three. I'm assuming they were workers. Obviously, the one was a ride operator, and I'm assuming they were all part of that park. So they head out to sea and end up on this island at the Grand Island Hotel, and that is where the movie truly begins. So right off the bat, it starts off pretty interesting, right? You go from this inn to this summer hangout. I guess these friends were all just hanging out, having a good time, good afternoon, weekend at this amusement park, and are chased out of the park for helping somebody to this island and this hotel. So they seek refuge in this hotel, and strange things are afoot, which you really, from the intro to now, you know this is the hotel where this party was set to take place, and they realize that it's July, but why is this place decorated for Christmas and for the holidays? And they go throughout the hotel to see if they're able to find any staff or any workers there. And as they're going through the hotel, they run into some paranormal activity, poltergeist type activity, books closing, stuff falling. Really good sight gags. There's one part where they're at a pool table and the pool balls all cue back up together, and you could tell it was shot in reverse, but you don't know why. And as they look through the rooms to find clothes, because they had to swim to the island from the boat, on the TV in the one room, finally the power is back on. It just came on. Initially it wasn't on. You see three scientists talking about this plane carrying this cloaking device and what it would mean, for the Air Force. And so that's kind of your little hint of what might have happened, but you're still not 100% sure. And as the activity begins to pick up, they leave the hotel and search the island for other people who may be there. They did find a ghost maid had come and dropped off a blanket to one of these teenagers, and she disappeared, and they go looking for her. But they end up in a cottage where the one girl, Leslie, is attacked by a fishnet, and the table becomes like a swamp monster. Really weird. So you don't really know what's going on. And then Rick and Janet, they're like the main couple. As they're going through the woods, they notice a plane crash. They see a big explosion, and there's a wreck, but it's not new. And they see a ghostly figure of the pilot. So at this point, you can kind of put together what happened. But the other people, Carol, who was the American girl, she was American, and she's still back at the hotel, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And lo and behold, there are 3 people from the amusement park are still giving chase and are there. And at this point, Leslie has turned into a monster herself after being attacked by this fishnet. And a lot of weird stuff. And then the activity really spikes up. And then we finally figure out that it was this plane that was carrying this cloaking device. It had crashed and caused a time warp or some kind of devastation. Not really a murder, like it says on the back of the box. And then the movie ends. Yeah. It's definitely worth it. It was a fun little movie, but it's very cheesy and there's other movies you can watch on New Year's. The cast, the 6 teenagers, quote unquote teenagers, were Leslie, and the role of Leslie was played by Susie Atchison. Janet was played by Nikki Brooks. Spud was played by Colin Hayward, who did some musical stuff back in the 80s. He had some music. Rick was played by Mark Powley. Carol was played by Catherine Roman. That was the American girl. And Tom was played by Julian Ronnie. And the 3 workers were Steve Emerson, and was titled as Dad. Stephen Wilshire as Ace, and John Glennon-Trian, I don't know how to pronounce that, as the Bear. So I really... Okay, so let's go back to the beginning here real quick and just talk about it. Let's break this down and figure out what's going on. So you have these 3 fair workers, if you will, harassing a girl and then chase the remainder of these teens who come to help her, as well as her, off the property to the water. You would think that they would stop there, right? Wrong. Then you go to this hotel that's haunted, and you don't know why. And it's clear now, after watching it, and that this time warp, or this break in the space-time continuum, however you want to look at it, that they're trapped inside. And that's fine, well and good, but why? It doesn't explain the monsters. It doesn't explain when these people died that they turned into zombies. I don't know that it would cause that kind of side effects, after effects. But it's strange. It is definitely strange. But there were some good, albeit over-the-top effects. Some of the reviews I saw, and I made this connection as well, there's a scene where Rick and Janet are on the beach, and you have a point of view shot like they're being followed through the woods. So you only see the camera going through the woods, much like Evil Dead. And then In terms of Bloody New Year, there's some blood, but there's not much. One of the end scenes, Rick is caught in quicksand, and who I would believe is Dad, the ride operator, has a motor from a boat and proceeds to put it up against his head, which is sticking out of the ground, but they don't show it. It's just implied. And Carol, she's out on the boat that they came on, and then she is pulled through the boat. And then she's back in the hotel looking through the mirror where we see everybody dancing and having a good time from the 50s and their friends. So it's kind of like they're stuck, and she's seeing this alternate universe, this alternate time frame. So very, very strange, very good. Again, those actors, this is a British film, so it was all actors from over there, with the exception of the American girl, which I could not find anything about her. The music was pretty good, new wavy. The lead song was called Recipe for Romance. That's the opening credits and the closing credits, by the band Cry No More, which, much like Trick or Treat, all the music was done by this band, and one of the members provided the score. And that's it. There's not much more to say about this, but it's I don't want to say don't waste your time and watch it, because I think it's definitely worth it, and I definitely can see that after maybe watching it from a restored version on, or maybe like a full complete version. I watched a version on it might have been Tubi, I forget, but there were ads, so we stopped every so many minutes for an ad break and everything. But maybe seeing some behind the scene footage, or maybe some commentary or documentaries or making of, excuse me, would make it seem a little bit better. But yeah, Bloody New Year, and that's what we're off to, a bloody good New Year. And that's going to do it for this week's episode, this kickoff episode of 2023. And I want to thank you for taking the time to stop by and spending your New Year's Day with me. So that's going to do it. I want you all to have a great rest of your day. Take care. God bless and stay smooth, and we will chat on the next episode.